So this is
Yep.
the Stay Healthy Experience with Robert Ferguson, Barbara, Kris, and my man Daniel Baldwin, who is not in studio with us today, but you make up for that.
He's here in spirit.
He's here in spirit. I just want to say that he's here in spirit. Yes.
Exactly.
So we have Dr. David Pryor, and it's funny when I said you were coming into studio today. The first question she asked me was, "What type of doctor are you?"
Okay.
So what is the proper way of describing what type of doctor you are?
Yeah, I'm an internal medicine doctor. So board certified internal medicine. Now, some people might say internal medicine is like general practice or adult medicine.
Okay.
So I treat adults, and you have also like family practice doctors who treat adults and kids. Of course, pediatricians who only treat kids. But internal medicine is basically the treatment of adults, all types from hypertension, diabetes, pneumonia, anything like that you can go into your regular doctor. That's what I do.
You see it all then.
I see it all, a little bit of everything. So.
It's very interesting when you look at the history of becoming a physician and to where we are today, because there's so many specialized, roles you could take on.
Yes.
It gets a little confusing.
It does. It does. So internal medicine. So basically after medical school, for 4 years of medical school, then you do your residency. And so for internal medicine, what I do, it's 3 years after you graduate from medical school, okay? And then you go out. Now, if you wanted to then become a cardiologist, for example, and specialize in the heart, then you do a few more years of a fellowship. Same thing for a GI doctor, gastrointestinal. So there are branches off of it from there. Much like a surgeon. You know, you could be a general surgeon, then you could go do more and be a neurosurgeon, right? So that's how it works.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, so are you going to change professions again?
Yeah, I am.
Change professions,
Yeah, let's get in the surgery room, right?
Get in the surgery room.
Now, let's go back, because to me, from a distance, when I look at what I know about your career, and we just shared, which we'll share a little bit with the people how you and I met originally. Yeah. But when you graduated and became, like, where did you do your internship? And chronologically, take us up to where you are now.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll start back. So first of all, I'm from the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, from San Jose, where I grew up. Yeah, Tupac. Tupac in Oakland, that area. But I'm from San Jose, and so grew up there, and was able to go to my undergraduate at Stanford University, and Palo Alto area there, and then from there went to medical school, University of California at San Diego. And then, so I was down there.
She was down there partying too.
Oh, really? San Diego? Yeah. Great place. I love San Diego.
It is a beautiful city,
Yeah, and then kind of came back up to the Bay Area. So I actually did my residency at Kaiser and Oakland. So I was in Oakland, back in the Bay Area at that time.
Now, is that where headquarters is for Kaiser?
That's where headquarters for Kaiser is. That was the kind of the flagship hospital there in Oakland. And so it was a great experience, because you got to see a variety of people, right? All ethnicities. And even though they had insurance with Kaiser, it was you had your professors, right, that were at UC Berkeley that may have had insurance with Kaiser, but you also had guys that worked in the shipyards, right? Wow. So you had people that had insurance, but it was many different parts of
walks of life.
Walks of life, yeah.
And then of course you had the guys who were getting in fights on the street and the gangbangers, right? Because you get that experience.
A little bit of that as well.
Like, almost like Vietnam type stuff.
Although there they had a county hospital. So a lot of that was a hospital called Highland Hospital, which was kind of the county hospital. So we didn't see as many of those at Kaiser, right? But you did have a big variety, which was great. Saw a lot of disease and illness. And when you're in residency, you want to see all that, right?
Yeah.
You want to see just bad cases of this and that, so you can learn and really help people. Right. So that was really great.
That's great.
And then you stayed there until when?
I stayed there for a couple years after my residency. Even worked up there at a Kaiser in Richmond, California.
Okay, I like Richmond area.
Richmond,
nice.
Up there. And then, but was really fortunate to then come down to Southern California to really at that point start working in, we call medical leadership and administration, and started working in the health insurance industry, right?
Now, was that still with Kaiser at the time?
No, that was actually with a different company with Blue Cross at the time.
So is that, I don't want to interject too much, not to get off track, but is that like a normal track that people take or doctors would take?
It is and it isn't. I always knew that we call population health, right? So there's one doctor that takes care of one person at a time in the office, right? Then there are other doctors who say, gosh, it's great to do that one-on-one, but how can you affect more people, right? And so that's what we call population health, where you're really responsible for helping to take care of thousands of people, right? By the programs that you do, by giving out health information. So that's really a different level of treating people. And so that was really attractive to me. And so that's how I kind of made that turn there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So then you're in Southern California. And how soon after that did you discover Aetna?
Discover Aetna. Yeah, that was about maybe about 5 years later. So I had been working with Blue Cross, and then I kind of moved over and started working for Aetna, which was another major insurer.
Yeah.
And that's I think about the time that I met you.
Okay.
Yeah.
See? And his whole world changed.
It changed. It changed for the better, huh?
Yeah.
It changed for the
He
better.
saw the light. All of a sudden, the what is it? The clouds parted.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the music and the
the
violin
sun
and
came
everything.
out,
Everything just got better.
Yeah.
Angels
But I
were
mean,
singing.
in some similarities, though, what we just talked about with Robert, right? Because I think looking at your career, right, you at times started off helping people one-on-one with diet, exercise, right? Then at the same time, you said, gosh, how can I affect more people at a different level?
True.
And so it's similar to like doctors, right? And you start kind of branching off and you were able to put your message across the whole country, right? And probably around the world about how do you live that, a different lifestyle.
What did you call it? Was leadership medicine?
Yeah, medical leadership.
Medical leadership, yeah.
Medical leadership roles,
like that.
And then from there, your career is fascinating because after I met you and because of Dr. Pryor, I got featured in this amazing calendar.
Yeah.
And it was the first year they were focusing on obesity.
Yes.
And what year was that?
Around 2006.
Well, it was a 2007 calendar. So you're right, 2006.
Okay.
Is when I nominated you to say, hey, this guy is doing some fabulous work out in the Ventura area. We hadn't even met yet, but I had read in papers, local papers.
Yeah, I used to have a column in the VC Reporter.
Yep.
Oh, so that's how you saw it.
That's how I saw it, and I said, hey, this is a guy to check out. And so, they went and kind of interviewed you. We call it vetting, right? They had to go take a look. I said, here's the guy, but you take a look at him. And they were impressed, and that's how you got into that calendar.
Yeah, it was amazing. That calendar, it helps me to this day.
Yeah.
People
and it's not,
what month were you?
I was April.
So people still say that April
AKA
2007.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
They have a frame.
Frame for it. And it wasn't a local effort. This is a national calendar that they do all across the country.
That is so cool.
And it's like annual they still have it. It's
exactly.
like every year, I think that was like the 30, it was close to 30 or right after 30 years of doing this calendar.
Yeah.
So that means they're 40 years now.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It was a big deal. It was a big deal.
And it opened up a lot of doors for me.
Yeah. I bet. That's
and then
great.
from there,
yes,
you made the move to NBC Universal, right?
Exactly. So at that time, I really was becoming more interested in wellness and, gosh, how do you take a large employee workforce, right? Like a large employer.
Yeah.
And how do you help to try to, make the employees well and try to move in that direction? So I had this opportunity to work for NBC Universal on the Universal Studios lot as the kind of West Coast medical director for that. And
that's a big deal.
It is, and I actually probably have some friends who work maybe in the occupational health side of that, like on the sets, and that's a demanding. It's a demanding job. Yes.
There's a lot going on.
Everything's changing.
Everything's changing, and there's a lot of things. We dealt with the reality shows, right, and some of the, like Biggest Loser, some of those shows, and you had to say, God, who's going to be on the show, who's not going to be on the show. How do you look at the medical records and look at the risk of the candidates? So just things like Biggest Fear Factor, right? People want to come on, eat these weird foods, or eat insects.
Eat a cockroach or something.
Yeah, and so I would kind of work with our legal team to say, gosh, they would say, is this from a medical standpoint? Does this make sense? Is this too high risk or not? So it's just, you got all kind of weird
That's like a dream job for any physician.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. It was interesting. It was an interesting time. And then some of the other things were just, the employees need health insurance. And so how do you make sure they're getting the best insurance? So some of it was just like any other, large employer that they need their insurance. So it was a great time, interesting time. And I really enjoyed it. And
now you're currently working with Anthem.
And now I'm back. Yeah, I'm back on
Anthem.
the health insurance side.
Okay.
With Anthem Blue Cross here in California, and enjoying that. And we take care of millions of people all across the country. And so it's been a great ride. And but one of my passions, and why I've always stayed connected with Robert again, is how do you help people? How do you get people engaged in their health? Right, because it's a mixture of giving information, right? But then with information, how do you also motivate people, to make changes in their health? And it's kind of an ongoing.
That's an ongoing battle.
Ongoing battle.
Sure.
And I know one that, Robert's been involved with for years. And I know I appreciate some of your wisdom of kind of working with people from all walks of life, right?
Yeah.
And trying to help figure that out. How do you coach? How do you motivate? And how do you give them the information? And so that's real important.
Well, it's like now that I work with Stay Healthy and being the health ambassador there, and David had a chance to go down and meet the team and everyone, and everybody was, totally impressed with you. Yeah. But it's all about education is where we are there.
Yes.
And I remember when I was doing my first big project with Aetna in Missouri, we were talking about how to reverse childhood obesity. And my answer really was education. And I'll never forget the pushback I experienced because they said, Robert, it can't be that simple.
Okay.
It's not just about being educated. We need to bring food to the people. Like they're in food deserts. And that's where a lot of the focus was then.
Yes.
Well, then we went ahead and we did my pilot program, and the outcomes were amazing because it was about education. Yeah. But it was education in a way where it met people where they were.
Exactly.
Right.
It's speaking, if they're going to eat top ramen, show them how to make the most of it. Because I was doing work with Medicaid population.
I see.
And so that was a challenge, and almost everyone from the top down felt that's not going to work. But, Brian, who was the CEO at the time, was really heavily pushing it. And we then got a lot of the employees on board. And, the morale was up and people were talking about it. So we were able to kind of squeeze in there and do it.
Yeah.
And the outcome was great. And it proved that if you take the time and educate people, they will rise up to the occasion.
For sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Instead of feeling like they're being judged.
Yeah. I have a story I can share when I was, working in aerospace. So for example, we'd have employees that had been there for 20 plus years, 30 years. They were there at the start, and they did things maybe way back then a lot differently than they would do today. And we always found that the implementation, if we had to change something, so for example, we had to go into like a painting operation, right? And maybe before 25 years ago, they painted a certain way with certain paints that are, let's say, outlawed today, but that maybe worked better. When we went into a process to change and implement, these types of like new regulatory, changes, it was always a lot more effective if we went in from an educational standpoint and explaining why we were doing these things, why it was safer to use these types of paints, why it was necessary to use this kind of ventilation system, and why it was necessary to suit up with the respirator. If we took the time to educate them with stuff about that, they were a lot more
open to
because they realized like, oh, you're just trying to do something good for me. You're not just coming down like the police and just changing everything that worked good for me for 25 years. You know?
Exactly.
So we dealt with that too, and but sometimes with a small staff, it would be hard to like hit all these areas with that level of attention. I guess. Yeah.
But that's I think the exciting thing though with technology. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
One of the things, even when I was doing my residency, and Robert knows this years ago, gosh, I hate to say how many years ago, but I started a website really focusing on the health needs of African-American women because I was working at Kaiser and Oakland, right? So I was around a lot of
So that's when all that started.
That's when it started, when I was doing my residency at the time. When you're busy, that's when you sometimes get more things done. But started that, and I hate to say it was like 1999. That's a long time ago. It's like
that's before
a lot of people were starting to really
before
get on
Y2K,
there.
right?
Yeah. And but it was amazing to see how at that point, the web was more just writing articles. It wasn't even videos that much then, right? It wasn't even a lot of pictures. It was articles. But how then you could touch people and you would get, emails and responses back from other countries, right? Outside the U.S. even, right? That there was this connection.
Cool.
And it could be London, Africa, all over the world. And so that's how I really saw that was a powerful medium. And how can you use, the media to really make an impact on health? And so that's one of my interests.
That's fast. So the website is Black Women's Health.
BlackWomen'sHealth.com is the website. And, right now we're actually, as Robert knows, talking about kind of doing that next version of it, right? How do you kind of relaunch? Because we did it for a number of years. It was great. Kind of took a little, hiatus, a little break with it. And now so much has changed in so many ways, right? With social media, with video. There's a ton of information out there. And I think it's a great opportunity still.
It's a great platform.
The name says it all. If you're a Black woman looking for better health,
Black Women's Health.
There you go.
There you go.
That's it.
That's gold. Like if you were to give up that .com
it'd go like,
and just wait 60 days, you'll see someone selling it for
lots of money.
It could be six figures.
Wow.
Yeah.
Easily.
I even realized.
That's a great name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
So if you want to give it up, you know.
you got a place. You got a place you can go.
Like Merry Christmas.
Merry
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Because the niche is right in there. And as
Yeah.
the one gentleman I went with you, I can't remember his name, but you'll probably remember him. It was when you were doing work with Aetna and Magic Johnson was involved.
Yes.
And we went to you let me go to that event. And the one guy got up there, and because he was bonding with you and I, going, all right, we got some light-skinned brothers in here. Bring a light-skinned back.
Bring it back.
But he said something that night. He says, the riches are in the niches.
In the niches.
I was like, man, that was good.
I do
remember that?
Yes. I don't remember the person, but then that phrase, I
Yes.
remember.
Wow.
The riches are in the niches.
And you still say that all the time.
I got it from him.
Oh, wow.
And I feel bad I don't know his name.
name.
But he was very talented. I'm actually Facebook friends with him.
Oh, yes.
So I see him every once in a
Doug.
while.
I think his name was Doug. I think I know who you're talking
Yeah,
about.
he was cool.
He's going to be watching and be like, you
That's
guys
me.
don't
You
even
guys
remember my
took my
name.
stuff.
Took my stuff.
Took my stuff and don't even know my name.
We're going to get in trouble. Like, you know who Mr. Cooper is? Remember that TV show, Mr. Cooper?
Yeah.
Mark Cooper hanging
Yeah,
Mark
yeah,
Cooper.
yeah. That's
so
right.
this morning I wake up and first thing I do lately, if I'm not working out, is I'll go on my phone on YouTube.
Yeah.
And you know, it knows what you're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mr. Cooper pops up and he's going off about Steve Harvey stealing his joke. Did you see that?
I didn't.
I see it.
And he
check
is
it
like, oh man, he putting it right out there. He goes, yeah, I
Really?
checked him. I checked him. You don't steal people's comedy.
Especially with comedians.
Right.
I know.
That's
Not
like, and
good.
it's all over. Now you have, so what happens in that world, which you brought up, is that one person, he does an interview. It goes on YouTube.
Yeah.
All the bloggers see that.
And then
they pull the excerpt.
Right.
Yeah.
So that now you just have the part where Mr. Cooper's giving Steve Harvey
Going
a hard
off.
time.
Right.
And then they report on it. And then other people see their blog and then they report on it. And then it becomes viral and
Right.
it's everywhere.
Just like that.
So trust me, Steve is hearing it everywhere he's
I'm
going
sure.
right now. That is the power of the internet.
Of the
right
internet right
Yeah.
now. Yeah. But
Very
the one
powerful.
challenge, though, I think is though, especially in health,
Yeah.
right? How do you're trying to reach people, right? But sometimes you need that viral kind of crazy moment, right? Or that little sound bite.
Yeah.
And so it's a balancing act, right? Of trying to be true, trying to give good information out,
Right.
trying not to be too over the top and sensational, but it's a balancing thing. I don't know, how do you feel about balancing those two things, right? Because like you said, this show that you referenced a minute ago, I had never even heard of that show.
Right.
But now I have, just
yes.
because of that he kind of said something a little controversial, kind of going
Right.
after Steve
Yeah.
Harvey. And now you know who the host of the show is, all that because of that little
Yeah.
piece of a sound
And then
bite.
Mr. Cooper's back
Yeah.
on the map.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen him forever.
Yeah,
Long
that's
time.
true.
But Mark is back.
Yeah,
and
so
he's
that's
still doing
interesting.
comedy.
I didn't know that. See, I didn't know that.
Well, see, my thing, like, okay, so
Yeah.
if you reflect back and you think about your entire life,
Yeah.
you start to notice little things that took place at 8 and 10, and 16. Different parts of your life all come together to put you to where you are at this
now.
moment, right? So years ago, my mom's husband's father had a heart attack. So I was maybe 11, so 10 or 11 years old. And I'll never forget hearing, you hear heart attack. I didn't really quite get what that was, but I knew it wasn't good, and then we were going to the hospital.
Right.
So we go to the hospital, and we walk in, and his name was Mr. Pete. I call him Mr. Peter.
Yeah.
So Mr. Peter always had on a white T-shirt, and he had an extended belly, huge belly. I mean, where like the white T-shirt came down, but it didn't go over the belly.
All the way
A
over.
little bit at the bottom there. peeking
Just a
through.
little bit.
There's some
I mean,
ventilation.
it would roll up too.
Some ventilation.
It would roll
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
So we get there, and I remember my mom, all concerned, and they go in there, and I just walk in, I sit down, and I see his wife, Miss Dorothy, walks in with a big old pot of ham hock and collard greens with some ribs.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
Yesterday, he had a heart attack.
Yes.
Today, she's bringing in all his favorites, and I remember watching him eat a huge plate.
In the hospital?
In the hospital.
Wow. I know.
This is right after a heart attack.
That's serious.
Jeez.
And then my mom's going, something's not adding up here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you're supposed to be eating all that.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the life he lived. And it
Yeah.
taught me a major lesson that you really do have to meet people where they are.
Yes.
Some people are not going to overhaul their life.
Even
Like
faced
that.
with a
Yeah.
significant
faced-
heart attack.
And then when I was writing the very first book I did on weight loss, I remember going into a cancer ward. And I saw people in the cancer ward walk out and smoke a cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, this is stuff that you've seen.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I was like, wow. So what is going to change?
Yeah.
It's not just education.
That's the challenge. And like you say, it's figuring out what's the priority for the person. You know, like you said, they may have a cancer diagnosis. They may have this or that. But like you say, meet them where they're at. What are you willing to change? Are you willing to hopefully give up cigarettes? Maybe they are. Maybe they'll say, well, I'll cut back in half. Maybe you start there, right? The same thing with food. And as you know, I mean, food for many people, it can be the comforter. It can be an addiction, right? And so for some people, it's easy to push a plate away and go exercise. And for other people, it's just very foreign to them.
Yeah, like some people feel like they're so far gone that it's not even, that there's nothing that they can do anyway. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, eating or smoking or whatever it may be.
And don't you think a lot of it too psychologically is that people don't want you to be right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I do what you're saying, then I would have to admit that I was doing it the wrong way.
Doing it the wrong way.
For so many
and
years.
as Dr. Phil would say, you want better results or you prefer to be right?
Prefer to be right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the
I guess
complex.
it's
There's
like
so
a
many
pride.
different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's complex.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes it so difficult. As you said, you have lives that you're looking after.
Mm-hmm.
You have all these people. Like people think the insurance companies are bad and they're out to get us and take advantage of us.
Right.
And what I've learned and what I've always said is that no, insurance companies aren't. That's not the goal. They want you to live long.
Right.
Yes.
They want you to be healthy.
Stay out of the hospital,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
It's less expense for everybody.
Right.
But
the world don't look at it like that.
No.
If you get in a conversation in the barbershop, which, that's where we go to find out what's really going on. You go in the
The real
barbershop and you bring up like health insurance. They go, oh yeah, they're going to get you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Stay away from that.
They're going to get you.
They're gonna get you?
They're going to take all your money.
Yeah.
They're not. They don't want us to be healthy.
Yeah.
And then you just have that ongoing thought that is fueled, and it seems to be expanding.
Yeah, because maybe that's, like you said, that's what you may want to hear instead of the other message of, gosh, if you do X, Y, and Z, you can really live a healthier lifestyle. You should visit your doctor maybe once a year, just do a check-in. But other than that, you can really stay out of the hospital. And that's the best thing, right?
Yeah.
That you're healthy.
Yes.
You don't have to be hospitalized. And everybody kind of wins, I think, right?
I totally agree. That's what I love about, there's so many things I like and love about what you represent and things I've learned from you. Because I always learn a lot from David.
Yeah.
But he created this thing called lifestyle DNA.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which I love. Would you mind explaining that?
I would want to hear about
Yeah,
this.
that was a few years ago. So this concept of lifestyle DNA, like many people, we know that you used to think in high school that your DNA is kind of your genetic code, right?
Right.
Not a lot you can change. You know, you have brown eyes, you have blue eyes, you have black hair, and we've learned, gosh, that's your DNA. That's what's coded in.
Right.
And many people would think, gosh, for their health, that, diabetes runs in my family. It must be in our DNA, right? And we said, no, not necessarily, right? There is some genetic components to that. But more often, it's the lifestyle that runs in your family, right?
Yes.
It's that all of your aunts and uncles, nobody exercised.
Right.
And everybody ate this kind of bad food.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the theme that's running through your family. So it's really the lifestyle. So lifestyle DNA really says that our DNA is a little bit malleable, right? It means it's not as fixed as we used to think, right? That it depends on, the DNA is there as a footprint, but it's what do you put on it as fuel, right? So if you might have a predisposition for diabetes in your family, that could be true, right? But if you eat a really healthy lifestyle, eat healthy, exercise, you can kind of turn off the expression of that gene.
Right.
Conversely, though, if you eat a high-fat diet, you don't exercise, you're obese, you kind of turn that gene on and give it the fuel it needs to express itself.
Right.
So that really was the
I
essence
love
of lifestyle
that.
DNA.
I mean,
I'm like so using that with my clients now. I love
she
it.
wants to take your idea.
Yeah,
See?
well,
I'm
thank
telling
At least I'm going to remember
You're
your
gonna
name.
remember it. Not like
Not like you guys.
Like I'll take credit for
like
it.
Steve.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that is.
Steve and
I
Mark
love that.
You
That is
see my
really
new
good.
Facebook cover photo, Lifestyle DNA,
You're
founder
like,
Robert
okay.
Ferguson.
Found Robert Ferguson, exactly.
It's like okay.
Exactly.
No, but like when we went to, we were in Ohio. A friend of ours had us out, and we all spoke. And when you did that presentation, I was like, it was so
about that.
It was
About that topic,
explained masterfully.
Yes.
It was
because we had talked about it. You said I never really totally got it, Dave, until you heard that.
Yeah.
You said, okay, now
that is really good.
But then you went into a story about your dad.
Yeah.
And blood pressure medication.
Yes.
And that was a light bulb moment for me.
Yeah.
So I know you were going, all right, what?
Like what?
what was it? Well, I always say, my dad's kind of a classic example. I see a lot of patients like this that when I was growing up, my dad always would say, watch the salt, and we kind of tried to follow that, right? Because he had been diagnosed with high blood pressure.
Okay.
It's very common, right? A lot of people, he was probably in his, 40s, 50s.
Mm-hmm.
He's diagnosed with it. He really tried to kind of watch, the extra salt and all that, but he didn't like to visit the doctor. So he really was never on the high blood pressure medication.
Okay.
So kind of like 50s, 60s, 70s, all that kind of happened. Once in a while, he would go to a screening and they would say, gosh, your blood pressure is really high. Come check with your doctor. Now, even though we had insurance, we had access to care, like many men, especially, and I have to say many men in general, but African-American men in particular, really try to avoid the doctor, right? Okay. It's like for many reasons, cultural reasons, a lot of things, history has happened that we try to avoid the doctor, right? Out of sight, out of mind. Long story short, he was about 70, late 60s, 70, finally went to the doctor and they started to see that some of his lab values, took some blood, that his kidneys were starting to see some damage.
Wow.
Because when you have high blood pressure for so long, your organs, your heart, your kidneys, they're kind of damaged by seeing that high blood pressure every day.
Yeah.
Long story short, eventually the kidneys, it kind of progressed. He had to go on kidney dialysis. So about the last 7 years of his life, he was on kidney dialysis, really because of the high blood pressure that wasn't controlled. Now, as you know, the other big condition that causes kidney disease is diabetes. So people that have diabetes or high blood pressure really increase risk for developing kidney disease and often have to go on dialysis. Right. And so that was kind of his story. He ended up dying at 84. So he was on it for about 77 to about 84. Then he passed away. And so that's why, obviously preach of that, right? Go to the doctor, get your blood pressure checked. If you do need medication, get on the medication, but at the same time work on your lifestyle.
Right.
Because oftentimes, you can reverse and get off some of those medications.
Oh, I love that.
It's all about if you nurture it, and it's so difficult for so many people. And you're right. I was just back in Indiana, and I saw my mom's ex-husband, who we stayed in touch, and thanks to Facebook, and he really wanted to see me.
Oh, good.
And so he came by, and he's just been battling with a lot of medical challenges. Yeah. And so he does dialysis 3 days a week. And I hadn't seen him in years. So I'm sitting there watching him, and we're talking, and he's having a hard time breathing.
Oh, man.
I mean, he's a young man, but still, he's like in his 60s.
Wow.
So he was younger than my mom, like 10 years younger. So maybe like 64 now. And I could see, man, it's not looking good.
Yeah.
It's not looking good. And you start, you can see it, it's really sad.
Wow.
Because there's nothing you can do because he's done so much damage.
He progressed. And the only thing you can try to maybe get a kidney transplant if you're eligible for that.
He's on the list.
He's on the list.
And he's hopeful. Yeah. But at the same time, 8 months ago, he had a good day. And I saw him on Facebook with his new outfit on. The grill was like lit up.
Yeah.
He had a whole bunch of pork sitting on that grill.
Oh, yeah. I see.
And he's like got the music playing, the OJ's in the back. And that's his life. That was a good day for him.
That was a good day.
So he hasn't changed anything.
I see.
The way he's eating, nothing's changed. Activity, nothing's changed. He's a truck driver, gets in the truck, drives, sitting around all the time, eating the same stuff, going to dialysis, and just hoping you wake up and things are different.
Things are different.
I know.
But how do you really make that?
It's like insanity, insanity.
So if we could figure out how to get engagement up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the key word, engagement.
Engagement.
How do you?
We would have something major, right?
Yeah. And how do you reach people with these chronic conditions? Because when you think about it, they have the chronic conditions. That indicates that they have a different type of lifestyle.
Right.
That they're not necessarily into the health and exercise.
Right.
And they get to this position, and then you come at them, kind of preaching to them to do better. So it's a hard audience because they've already kind of made that choice that that part of their health isn't as important. And then how do you reach them at this point? And so it's challenging, but that's I think one of the reasons why I love healthcare so much because you can still reach out, and every time you get a victory, even if it's one person at a time. You've helped one person.
Right.
That kind of spurs you on to do more.
Right, or whoever's around them sees that and it impacts them too.
Exactly. So that's, I think, one of the exciting parts of it. The other thing which always fascinating me as a medical doctor is just, our bodies. And I tell people all the time, our bodies are so forgiving when we're young. Right?
That's true.
You can be pretty unhealthy in your 20s and still in your 30s. But over time, I tell people, my patients, you're doing that little damage.
Every day.
Damage. Then when you get to like 50, 60, their body kind of says, hey, I've covered you for so long,
like,
right?
I'm tired.
I'm tired. I tried to, be strong for you, but your body kind of gives out, and you see this. And I would tell people, you're 30 right now, you have high blood pressure, you feel great, you don't have any symptoms, but it's doing damage.
But isn't it true that you run into, like, let's say we're having this conversation in the barbershop, right?
Yeah.
And we're all talking. You'll have some guy go, oh, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but my grandmother lived to be 114 and she had a bourbon in the morning, smoked cigarettes all day, and drank vodka at night.
Yeah, exactly.
That's for sure.
Exactly.
And so people look for those references to make it okay for them to delay doing what
to justify
would actually help them.
To justify what they're not going to do.
What they're not going to do. So, and I always say on that, there's always kind of outliers, right? Same thing. I had an uncle who was literally an alcoholic and smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day and lived to 95.
That's crazy.
And so, some people just are fortunate.
Yeah.
And they defy everything in the genetics, and they get some. But that doesn't, for most people that's not the case, right? And so, I always say there's some things that we can't explain, right? We can't explain it. I had many patients who are doing everything right, and still get diagnosed with cancer. And you can't explain it, right? That's probably some genetics and other things going on. I've had executives who are, on a Saturday riding their bike, exercising, right? Life is great, and get hit by a car, motor vehicle accident changes their life, right? Traumatic brain injury.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so what could you tell? I mean, they're doing everything, quote unquote,
they're supposed
right.
to do,
And so things happen that we can't explain, right? But I tell people it's just a matter of, there are certain things that we kind of know, if you are overweight, you're eating poorly, you don't exercise, for most people that's going to go down a bad path.
Yeah.
We do kind of, there's some
bad
things
end
that
result.
Yeah. And so to me, it's just, you got to balance it and try to do your best every day.
But then there's some people in the middle where they kind of know that they need to clean their act up.
Yeah.
But they keep putting it off. Like, well, I know I need to do that, but I'll do this at, 2020.
Yeah.
I'll start in January. And full well they're not going to start in January.
I'll start before the summer, right before summer.
Right, because I got to go on that cruise. I got to go on the cruise. I want to go on down the slide. I got to be able, but you
what do
hear
you
that
tell
all the
people?
time.
What's your message?
I mean, honestly, I tell them the most powerful thing that they can do is just start building those little habits a little bit every day. Literally, so if it's just one simple thing that they can do, will help to empower them to take control back. So I feel like at that point, they're fearful. They're scared of whatever this unknown area is, and so they just almost feel like victims in this. And so until they can master even just little steps along the way, it might be, let's say if it has to do with activity or something, like it's not about, you don't have to go out right now and get a trainer and get ripped or whatever that is. Like literally, why don't you try just walking. Or maybe, taking the stairs instead of the elevator and just starting to feel confident in these little things, and then we can build on that. And then at the same time, there's the whole education behind it. But I really feel that ways that we can empower people so that they can feel like they're making that choice, that it's not being pushed on them. Yeah.
Well, one, you have people who are coming to you for help.
True.
To be coached.
Right.
It's those people that you're wanting to reach that every time you look at them, they kind of look off. Just or
like at expos, they go the widest, radius around you to avoid you when you know full well those are the people you need to be talking to, but they're not ready. They're just not ready. They're scared.
And then they're confused, right? So my mom, I'll never forget this, like it was yesterday. My mom had lost a lot of weight. She was eating extremely strict. She was on one of these like Overweight Anonymous at the time. So this is before she lost weight with Diet Free Life.
With you, okay.
And then she got cancer.
Okay.
She got breast cancer. And I remember her saying, why? I eat healthy. I exercise every day. why me? And then, she started almost looking at God going, what's up? I've been doing everything right. Now, my mom didn't look at what she did up to 2 years before that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the years of yo-yo dieting and abuse with alcohol and all those things. She forgot all about that. She was like, right now, I've been doing everything right.
For the last 2 years.
And how is it that I get cancer?
Yeah.
That's horrible. And I remember she went into somewhat of a depression.
Yes.
And then moving forward, my mom, starts gaining some weight back after getting past that. Life goes by. She gets breast cancer the second time.
Wow.
So again, she conquers it. Then we get her to lose the weight. She's doing great. Then of course, in there's some yo-yoing. Yeah. And last week I went to the annual breast cancer symposium in San Antonio, Texas. So I get there, right? Because we're gonna launch OWL and kind of share with the world what we're doing. And my mom calls me.
Wow.
So a couple weeks ago. And I said, hey, what's going on? And she said, well, I got some not so good news. I go, what's that? She goes, I just got diagnosed with breast cancer the third time.
Really
wow.
So this just happened. I said, Mom, you know where I'm at right now? She goes, no. I'm traveling a lot. She goes, I'm in San Antonio. And I said, do you know why? She goes, I have no idea. I said, I'm going to a breast cancer symposium. And you just called me telling me that you have breast cancer for the third time.
Wow.
And so in my mind, and I believe she's going to do great. She's stage 0.
Yep.
So they caught it very early. She's one of those responsible people that goes to their appointments and
gets her mammograms.
Does her mammogram. She does all of that.
Okay.
Which I was sharing with Barbara earlier that I believe our parents' generation were better at that than we are.
I think so too. Yeah.
And I feel for the millennials. Because they're like, I got Google. Why do I need to go?
Why do I need to go?
I'll self-diagnose.
I got my phone. I got this app.
Yeah.
It's like they want to do it all on their own.
Yeah, that type of screening, they're like, you cannot mess around with that. You got to go. That's for sure.
Well, you're supposed to.
You're supposed to, yeah.
But I bring all that up to say that my mom, I watched in her journey be confused. There's an abundance of information out there.
Yeah.
And with weight loss, intermittent fasting today, keto tomorrow, some other program the next. No one really knows what to do.
Yeah. And every day you see a study and something's good for you one day and it's not good for you the next day.
And then the government contributes to that, right? Egg yolks were bad, 5 years ago. Now they're acceptable. Coffee was horrible last year. Now
it's like drink away.
Drink 3 cups a day. Right. I mean, so how do you deal with all of that?
Oh, gosh, I know.
Yeah. No, it is. And it can be very confusing. I tell people, I think, trying to keep it as simple as possible. I mean, I tell people, we certainly know eating more fruits and vegetables, exercising, those things are pretty, not too controversial, right?
Yeah.
We know that's kind of on the path to better health.
Yeah.
We know a lot of fast food, fried food, saturated fats, all those things are probably going the other way, right? And then I think once you kind of, make those kind of big decisions about which pathway you're going to follow, then I think you add on more of the information, right? And you do more research.
Exactly.
And you kind of read and try to make your best choices. But I think building a strong foundation is probably the key, right? Then maybe you can layer on some of the in-depth knowledge, right? And some people are, kind of at the Dean Ornish and that level of, they're very specific diets, right? And that's not for everybody though, right?
Right.
I mean, I tell people, you could maybe eat granola and cranberries all day long and drink water, and you probably will have low cholesterol, right? And you're probably gonna be doing great, but that's not realistic for most people.
Exactly.
Let's face it.
Exactly.
And so, again, some people, like I say, the zealots are really gonna be there,
right?
But that's not the majority of Americans, the majority of people. And so how do you reach those people and kind of give them a better, improved, lifestyle? And I think that's real important and something I'm very interested in.
No, I love that.
So.
And it makes it tough because in the world we live in, like when I was doing the work in Missouri, you go in and you meet these families, right, that are in under-resourced communities, and you talk to the parents. And the parents, you find out that their kid hasn't had a bowel movement in 6 weeks. Like that's not uncommon. That's actually pretty common.
Wow.
You find out that the kids are going to school without eating breakfast, and so they have a hard time concentrating because they're hungry.
They're hungry.
Then you got the kids who are eating hot fries first thing in the morning. That is breakfast.
Yeah.
And the mom, they're exhausted. They're like, get on that bus.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it happens. I think it's really common where kids show up with a little bag of chips, like that's their breakfast, and That's what they do. It's easy, you know.
And that's some of the interesting work that's going on right now. You know, I also went to public health school, right? So I got a master in public health from UC Berkeley. And one of the things, that was years ago, but we talked a lot about these social determinants of health, right?
Yeah.
Which really has become a kind of in vogue the last few years, even in corporate America, but something public health had been talking about for a long time, right? That your health, it in part is determined by where you live, the resources around you, right? So if you do live in what's called a food desert, and there's nothing but fast food around you, right? You're more apt to eat the fast food, or you don't have access to fresh fruit and vegetables. So all those things do play a role, right? And even, like you said, parents, let's say if you maybe in a single parent situation, it's hard for, the mother who's working all day long and trying to get the kids here or there, pick them up, to then come home and spend a lot of time cooking this grand, nutritious meal. It is sometimes easier to stop by a fast food place and pick something up, and the kids are full. They love it. They say, right? It's kind of
2 hamburgers for $1. Come on,
right? Yeah. And then they can sit down and rest for like 5 minutes. Like, woo.
Exactly.
Not even rest, because like again, when we were in Missouri, there were
true.
certain communities where we were doing the work, where there was almost no normalcy.
Yes.
Right? It wasn't normal
to
wake up at the same time, and everything works out great. And
so everything was always like just like in limbo.
You wake up, there's a fire truck outside.
Yeah.
Oh man, Johnny got stabbed last night. You know what I mean? Yeah. Then you get back home and your car is gone. Like, who stole my car?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you thought you were going to eat a good meal,
but you didn't.
Now you don't care.
I have a question for you guys about temptation, food temptation.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
With the recent, clamor about the Popeyes chicken sandwich, were you tempted to try it? Or I don't know if you're vegetarian or not, but were you tempted at all to say, what is that?
I mean, I guess I feel like I could try whatever I want. I just know how to.
But you know how big it got, though, right?
I mean, it was crazy. Like people were fighting over this, right?
They were like
in lines.
People the N-word was thrown around.
So I wouldn't wait in line like that. But I guess it's because I don't know. I think because I feel like any food out there that I want to try, I know how to eat it, and I eat it right in a balanced way. I guess I don't really have major temptations.
Do you know
like
who
that.
Boyce Watkins is?
Yes, I do know who he is.
So
a financial.
Financial. So I listen to him a lot.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I want to go on his show.
Okay.
It'll be fun. We'll have a really good conversation because he opens up his show basically telling you, like, confirming who should be listening to his show. So his show is for smart, intelligent black people. And if you're not smart,
you gotta get off.
He says, get your ass off right now. I don't want to embarrass you.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you got to watch. He's great.
Yeah.
Because that's where the focus is.
Yeah.
He knows who his audience is. Mm-hmm. But he had this long conversation about the Popeyes chicken.
Oh, God.
And he called those people. He goes, see, that is the ignorant, stupid. He keeps it real.
Oh, yeah.
Because people really lost their mind.
It's crazy. I know. I mean, I see these clips on TV. I'm like, God, it's out of control. I thought they were actually staged because they were so crazy. I'm like, that can't be real. But they were real.
And I don't really have addiction. I don't really have a comment about it. I just think it was a cultural thing, and not culture based on our ethnicity, but culture based on location where you lived.
Yeah.
It was more based on the demographics.
Oh,
because I didn't see people in Ventura.
True.
Looking for a Popeye.
For that as much. Yeah.
They were talking about it, but not doing it, I guess. Yeah.
But when I went to the barbershop in Oxnard, there is a Popeyes right down the street. And the conversation, oh, dude, did you get one yet? No, I didn't get one. I'm going to get one now.
Really?
Oh, Johnny's over there now. You should tell him.
Get 2 or 3 and bring him over.
Text him now, right? Yeah.
So it was a big deal in that demographic.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But I guess it's interesting just the power, though, of, again, social media and things going viral, and how can we flip that and do it something that would really promote health, right? So I think that's a great opportunity.
That would be great if we could figure
that out. Yeah.
Because I think also from a political standpoint, you run into a lot of problems, especially around getting people to lose weight or change their habits, is because if you really believe that being plant-based is the goal, then that's what you're really going to believe.
Oh, right.
So I come in and say, hey, we can meet people where they are. Let's show them how to eat that, chicken sandwich at Popeyes. in a healthier way.
Exactly.
But because you're plant-based, nope, can't get behind that.
Right.
So we already have divide coming out the gate.
Exactly.
And so like when my mom would go to one registered dietitian when she got breast cancer the first time, they said, nope, no more soy. But then when she had her second appointment with a different one, Oh no, I eat soy all the time. It's great.
Okay.
So what's right?
What do I believe?
Everyone, you get
Right.
confused. Like, where do you go, and then what's going to be okay from a political standpoint?
Yeah.
Because everybody has their own bias.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm always sharing with our coaches, a couple of terms. You have confirmation bias, which is when a person comes into a situation with their own predetermined truth.
Okay.
And they're not really open to anything different. It's kind of like if I said, hey, Donald Trump did a good thing and got,
They're going to say, no, he couldn't have done a good thing ever.
No, he can't.
He
Like
can't do a good
my
thing.
one buddy, Cal Fry, go, that's stupid.
Yeah.
He'd be like,
I go, hey,
stop.
but he did do a good thing. Nah, man, he can't do anything.
Just-
They're not even going, they're not going to hear anything. And I see the same thing around nutrition. People have, and
made
that's
their
why
mind.
it's so powerful in meeting people where they are.
Yes.
And even the work I do with a lot of my colleagues, when I explain to them that there is a step-by-step process to meeting someone where they are. And it's not just what to eat, and it's not just how to move. There's a lot of psychology to it.
Yes. Yes.
And it goes back to what both of you said, is that let's make it baby steps, as you were saying, a little slow, baby steps. And so our process is that. But if you have a bias that everyone should be eating broccoli and wild salmon, you're not going to hear me, because you can't put yourself in a situation where you can meet that person where they are.
Yeah, to think that they can never eat anything differently than they're
Right.
off. Yeah. Off
And
track.
a lot of times when you have like colleagues of mine, nutritionists, dietitians, etc., when I'm in the room with them and explaining how we're going to roll like the program out to certain communities, they're looking at me like, dude, this
Crazy.
is not going to work. And I'm like, no, it is going to work. But then they don't understand how it could work because they're not even familiar with hot fries.
I see.
They don't know about certain cultural dishes.
Right. What it's like to actually live there.
Right. They don't know that people are going to eat chitlins and hog mugs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They're looking at you. So what is that again?
Right.
And you went to school for 6 years?
Yeah, exactly.
And okay. And then they're going to look down on the person who does eat it.
And I love this
they
term
know.
recently that I heard of somebody saying, there's certain food that's celebratory food, right? It's don't think you have to ban it, but
Right.
it's a food that you eat when you're kind of celebrating,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of people around the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, their best memories are very much tied to food.
Yeah.
The way somebody cooked a pie, the way somebody cooked the turkey. And so they're saying, you don't have to completely go away from that. Maybe a few times of the year you are celebrating. You're celebrating family coming together. So maybe there's there's room for those type of foods at some point of the year, right? It's not an everyday food.
Well, but
maybe once in a while.
But you kind of partition it in a way where it's stacked on a bunch of cards that are lies, right? Because at that point, that's what we call a diet mentality. When you say, well,
Sometimes.
I eat it like every once in a while, So you're saying it's okay for you during that time of the year, but then you're going to demonize it after that. That's not fair to me, because that's all I can really afford, and that's all I've learned how to cook from a culinary standpoint. And so my mama didn't teach me how to do all that other stuff you guys, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So I just think, to me, it's like you got to meet them where they are, and it's got to be a lifestyle integration.
Yeah.
For sure.
And people can go at their own pace, and no one's judging anyone, and then education becomes important to them.
Right.
Wow.
That's just what I've seen.
Right.
And when we slowly introduce it, because trust me, even with cancer,
Yes.
I'm like, okay, we know that all the data says that when you eat a meal, it should be made up like 80% fruits and vegetables, 20% some type of meat. And that's cool. But I think of Peter, right? The guy that had the heart attack. Peter ain't gonna do no fruits and vegetables. No 80%.
Oh, Peter. Mr. Peter, that's
Mr.
right.
Peter, he ain't gonna, that's not gonna work with him. So who are we gonna try to get to do 80% fruits and vegetables as they, are going through chemo and all that stuff? Some people will, because they're scared to death and they want to live.
Yeah.
And they want to maximize. But then you got Mr. Peter's like, hey, no, I can't eat that.
Exactly.
And then what is it going to taste like when they do it? And who's teaching them how to put fruits and vegetables together?
How to flavor it right, yeah.
It's so much.
It is a lot.
But it's not overwhelming, because in our little study of 1,000, we did it. And now we have the opportunity to do it again.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is.
So I believe the outcome will be amazing. And it's so funny though, because as I sit with all of the executives and the physicians and they just keep coming back to me with the same questions. So how's it? So how's it? So all right. So who do you meet first? And I explain it over and over, and they go, okay. Then they put it in the RFP, and they're like, so okay. So how does that? And I go, man, I have explained that to you guys. I said the only way for you guys to really get it, is to do it
and experience it,
right?
Instead of being on the outside, like, okay, well, that's good for those people in under-resourced.
Yeah,
but
that's not something for me. No. It is something for you.
For you as well.
Yeah. So it's kind of like you have that disconnect also where you have people that are the influencers or in the position of power.
Right.
That are blocking the people from getting what they need to be successful because it doesn't sync up with what they believe.
What they believe.
Right. Yeah. What they've experienced up to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the ongoing challenge.
Exactly.
It's true. I mean, 100% of the clients that I have, they've all gone through some kind of up and down cycle with some diet or another, some kind of fad or whatever it is. Every single one of them, and so it's a struggle to get them out of that what we call the diet mentality.
Mentality.
Exactly. In fact, there was a client that I had about a year ago this time, and I remember being just a little bit like worrying about whether she should start at this time. It was literally right before Thanksgiving because she was definitely one of those people who was just either a hardcore diet or just eating whatever.
All or nothing.
Right. So I was like, God, but she was like, no, I want to start. We're going to start. So we did. She did amazing.
Wow.
And she was still eating, enjoying the foods that she likes. We taught her how to do it with the right portions, the right combinations, but she was having the food that was out there at every party that she went to.
Wow.
She killed it.
She killed it.
Yeah.
And started even during the holidays.
So you know what I believe the success of that is being mindful. And I think, there's different definitions I've heard of what that means.
Right.
But to me, when you're thinking about it before you eat it, that's being mindful.
Right.
I get you.
And when you're mindful, you don't eat as much, you don't overindulge.
Yeah.
You're mindful. It's the people who are just flowing. They're not thinking about it
at all.
They're just eating.
And they don't realize,
and if they do think about it, it's after and when they're tired watching the football game.
And then they're usually punting or they're punishing themselves too. So it's like, it's like an ongoing battle with food. Like really it's like an internal battle with food.
It's like you and peanut butter.
Okay, yeah. I have an issue with peanut butter. It's got to be crunchy though.
Oh, you like the crunchy?
I mean, I
like
just
it smooth.
Crunchy. And I'm just like, man, I'm happy with that and a cup of coffee.
Actually, that'd be a good conversation to
about
have,
peanut butter?
Like when we do a show about people being single or people looking for relationships. Like, when you first meet a person, ask them, do you like it crunchy?
Crunchy or smooth?
Right.
But even that, and even like my wife, it's like everything, like, if it's a dessert or something like that, she always likes little nuts, little nuts sprinkled in with it, or it's a cinnamon roll with nuts. But I don't like nuts. I'm like, no, so it's just everybody has their little thing.
Yeah, you have your side.
Your side, I have my side.
Now, do you have like a food that you like to indulge in occasionally? Not so much in the amount.
Yeah, I eat a little bit of everything. I think I wouldn't say it's a weakness, but I if sweets are in front of me, like maybe a little piece of cake or something like that, it's hard for me to pass that up always, right? But it's like many people. So if things are right in front of you, that's that temptation, right? I even struggle with that myself sometimes, right? I wouldn't necessarily go out and buy it, but if it's there,
like,
it comes into the house, or there's a donut or something, I wouldn't go out to buy it. But if it's right there, let me try that.
Like,
so
give me it.
Give me, you try it. So little things like that, it's a work in progress for all of us, right?
Oh, yes.
We know there's I think you may have saw a photo of me with this guy named Fernando dePollo. So Fernando I met in Arizona.
Okay.
And when I met him, he was 111 years old.
Wow.
And he was being honored as the Centenarian of the Year.
Yep.
And so I meet dePollo, and we're at this club the night before the big gathering. And I have some really cool footage of him.
Okay.
Because I went back and saw him when he was 113.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I should document this. So I stayed with him from morning until the evening.
Yeah.
Did every meal with him. He cooked all the food himself. I watched him do his workout. I saw his daily regimen, right?
Yeah.
So he's born 1901.
Wow.
So, but when I first met him at 111, we're standing and we're talking, and my feet are starting to bother me.
Okay.
So about 45 minutes, I'm still talking to him. And he took a glass of water and he held it like this. And I looked, and he was demonstrating how it doesn't shake.
Wow.
Because he was so solid.
And I was like that.
yeah.
I got to sit down.
But then the next year I saw him again. Then the next year I saw him.
Yeah.
So I saw him up until 114.
Yeah.
And when he was 113, I was with him and Dick Gregory.
Okay.
And that's when Dick Gregory got honored, and I got to be a part of that.
Wow.
So I bring that up because I asked him many questions over the time I knew him, because he passed right before he turned 115.
Wow.
Oh,
And he got a cough, closed his eyes, and died.
Wow.
Like, it wasn't anything long, drawn out.
Very peaceful.
Started coughing in the morning. He died. He closed his eyes, died.
Wow.
Very peaceful. And so I said, Fernando, like, what's the secret? And he shared 3 things that I'll never forget. He says, stay hydrated. Drink a lot of water. You know, it could be in the form of hot tea, you know, unsweetened iced tea, but, you know,
Drink.
colon and, you know, health on the inside.
Yep.
He also rubbed olive oil all over his body.
Okay.
Because when you look at the photos of him,
He has some
he
soft
looked
skin.
Some
amazing.
skin, right?
Hey, this guy looked amazing.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, he looked amazing.
You want to reach out and be like, whoa.
Yeah, he was like, and he was cool too.
Yeah.
And then he said every night before he goes to bed, he cleans the bottom of his feet.
Okay.
So he literally would like clean his feet. He had a little thing, put them in, rinse them off, scrub the bottom of the feet. Wow. And he had a whole theory on that.
Yeah.
And then he was really clear. He says, Robert, I eat whatever I want. He was primarily vegetarian.
Yeah.
When he was cooking at home, kind of what you said. But if he goes to someone's house and they serve steak, I'll eat the steak.
A little bit. I get you.
That wasn't his staple.
Right.
So he would use the word moderation, just the same way you did.
Yeah.
And that's how he lived his life.
Exactly.
You know, and lived in New York for 90 years, and then moved to Mesa, Arizona, for the remainder of his life. So at 91 or 90, he had moved to Arizona.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I learned a lot from this guy.
Oh, for sure. But even his mindset, when you said that, I just eat whatever I want.
His mindset.
So his
was
mindset is, just amazing.
He was right there. He just, you know, and he had that old Napoleon Hill type of like
soul.
Yeah, it was
Right.
like when he spoke, it was you listened. It was that.
Yeah.
It was
How
a different
cool.
voice back in the day.
Kind of like authority. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was awesome. But I'll end on this note as far as with dePollo. I'm sitting with him and Dick Gregory. Dick Gregory's a legend, right? Who's all about health. And so I'm sitting here, Dick Gregory's next to me, and dePollo, Fernando's next to him. And now Dick Gregory has on this wrinkled brown suit. Like it's like he never used an iron ever. He just threw it on.
Beard all scruffy.
Yeah, beard all scruffy
That's
and
it.
all gray and hair
here.
all kind of nappy.
Yeah.
But that was Dick Gregory.
That was him.
And so then next to him you have Fernando. He's got Stacey Adams on. Look suave.
Wow.
Nice. And he's sitting back like this. And Dick Gregory's sitting back, and I'm sitting there, and this Caucasian woman walks over to us. And she looks at Dick Gregory, and she goes, "Sir, 113?" and Dick Gregory was like this. He goes, "I think you're talking about this nigga right here."
Oh, really? Jeez.
Bleep, bleep.
Really?
Man.
Oh, and I couldn't.
Oh
I didn't know what to
God.
do. I was like, and she didn't know what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And Fernando was just sitting there smiling, and he didn't say anything. And Dick wasn't smiling; he was just looking straight forward.
So would you just leave?
And she goes,
Yeah.
and she just kind of backed out.
Backed out of that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even know what to say.
I know. I
That's
bet.
right. Dick Gray, he looked 113. Huh?
He looked 113. Yeah, but that was Dick, man. He was.
That's funny.
What an honor that was for me to spend time with him.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, he was amazing.
True pioneer in a lot of
Oh,
ways.
in so many ways. I mean, activist, and he's a comedian. Watching his work live, how the punchline. Oh man!
Then he pivoted to health later on, and
Oh.
the Bohemian diet and
Yeah.
all those things he did.
Well, you know, he got into health when he started doing political fasting,
Okay.
And that's when he was over 300 pounds, and Dick got down to probably 140, 130, and lived the rest of his life like that.
Yes,
but he was a guy who led the way for the Bill Cosby's,
right?
Richard Pryor.
Yep.
They had much respect for him.
Oh yes.
And I wish I had gone to his funeral because Bill Cosby, all those guys went. Dave Chappelle, everybody was there at his funeral.
He was a pioneer. Yeah.
Pioneer. So you're probably over there. Who's Dick Gregory? Well, go back and Google
it tonight.
Tap into your African American side.
But no, it's been great. All the things, like I say, that I really appreciate. Talking with you both today because. Many of the things that Robert's talked about over the years, like you said, we both have this mutual respect, right? Because you shared a lot of knowledge with me, and hopefully I have with you.
Oh, absolutely.
But this idea of meeting people where they're at, I'll say this one story. I'm also on the board of the American Heart Association here in Los Angeles, on the board, and we had a meeting about a couple months ago, and we had a variety of constituents there. And one of the gentlemen, they do a lot of work in communities like Inglewood and South Central LA, trying to encourage exercise and eating healthy. One of the constituents that was working there was a gentleman who really had been in the gangs in South Central. He said, literally, I haven't gone too far out of my neighborhood in my entire life. I mean, he really was authentic, but he was really talking about the good work that the American Heart Association was doing. But the bottom line is, we were at a kind of a swanky Beverly Hills restaurant, and they brought us food, and at the end of it, I noticed he hadn't really eaten a whole lot, and he was really struggling with this kind of high-end food. And he said at the end, this is it's very foreign to me.
Wow.
I'm much more comfortable. Like you said, we talk about eating a chicken sandwich or something. That's what I'm used to. He was really literally kind of picking out the food, and he said, I didn't really eat too much tonight. So that shows you that this person immediately bringing in this high-end, roasted salmon and garlic and all that it was hard for him to kind of grasp that right now. That's not to say over time he can't, move to that. Right. But it's this idea of meeting people where they're at. I think that's a phrase that I heard from you many years ago. But I think that's, that's an example to show how it's important, right? Where we come from, our culture, what's comfortable, what we know. It's important.
To share in alignment with that is when I was 20 years old, I went on a date with this young lady, and she had invited me to go to her family's house to have dinner there. So I remember I had a Herringbone, like one of those gold chains that MC Hammer used to wear.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah.
And that's when the sweaters were in, Bill Cosby, right? So I had the sweater on.
Those colorful big sweaters.
I thought I had it going on. So I get there, and I'll never forget, her younger sister was like 15. She goes, "Woo, is that real?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I got this going. I got it going on." And so we all sit down, and everything is going great. And then the dinner comes, and it's salmon. Now, at this point in my life, I've never eaten salmon. I didn't even know what salmon was. It was like, wow, I've never seen that before.
Wow.
Like, is it cooked? It looks a little pink.
I know, right? Is it supposed to be that color?
And then it had these trees on the plate. I was like, so what is that? And then it had like a lemon. So for me, I remember like taking the lemon. I started,
like it's an orange or something.
So I look up, and the whole family is just looking at me.
Oh my God!
And I was like, "Oh,
you're not supposed to do that."
And so then I see them squeeze a lemon on their salmon.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now. And then I get the little trees, which was asparagus. I had never eaten this. I'd never even seen what was asparagus.
I thought you were gonna say broccoli. Yeah.
No, it's little trees. I was like, eating a little tree, and they're standing, the little girl staring at me.
Wow.
And when the meal was over, because I didn't finish the salmon, just like the guy you met.
Yeah.
I remember going straight to Burger King, man, got a Whopper.
Because you're still hungry.
I don't want to be wealthy. I don't need that life.
That's funny.
I'm not that weird fish. I remember calling my mom. Mom, they had some weird fish. She goes, what was it? I go, salmon or something. Salmon, something like that.
Salmon.
But to this day, I'm telling you, when I do work in certain communities all over the U.S., I totally relate. I get it.
Yeah.
Because I never forgot. And I know that people in Missouri and places in Mississippi don't eat the way we eat out here in California. It's just totally different.
I mean, you can completely alienate someone just by a plate of food.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, I don't want to have anything to do with you. Like,
well, you know, along the road, you learn, because I remember I was in Mississippi. We're doing this tour about obesity.
Yeah.
And I was like feeling good. Yep. And I was like going into like different foods, and I was talking about, I remember mentioning the word tofu.
Okay.
And the whole audience is staring at me like
what?
Glazed over. Like, what the hell is he talking about?
Yeah.
And in the midst of that, I realized I wasn't speaking to them.
Right.
I get you.
I had gotten off the plane. I'm thinking North Ranch Country Club.
Yes. It's a different audience.
So you can totally read the audience. They just
but I was going.
out.
I was feeling it. I was talking oatmeal, and they weren't really feeling that either. And I went back. Hey, grits.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now we talking some gumbo. Oh yeah. I saw everybody started moving.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, it's something to say about meeting people where they are.
Yeah.
And that's why I always say it sounds cool, but it's not always easy.
It's not always easy.
And that's why you have to train the trainer. You have to get these nurses. We got to get the physicians. We got to get people on board with this philosophy.
Right.
And I think that will put them in a position where they'll have more empathy and compassion.
Yeah.
And they'll reach the people more effectively.
Yeah. I think it totally ties in also with was it the lifestyle DNA?
Yes.
The tell you, lifestyle DNA.
That
that's
is
the bomb,
amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
You
'cause I
still got the
wonder-
.com, right?
I still have it.
like,
I still have it.
No,
I know, another one. Another one.
I had a mental note of that. I'm teasing. I
So
bet.
do you have? We have like 5 minutes left. Do you have like another question? For
A quick question, actually,
Yes.
about the lifestyle DNA. Because I wonder, I mean, because you talk about, how you discuss the lifestyle and how that can impact, predisposition, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you find that is it being talked to with children, or is it mostly an adult talk? Because it feels like it'd be so powerful, with kids to learn that.
To learn it. That's a good idea. Usually it's more with adults, right? Because I always used to say, well, you kind of learn about with biology, 8th, 9th, 10th grade and DNA. But as you know, kids nowadays are learning about this stuff a lot earlier than we did,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they're learning about DNA and 4th,
Right.
5th, 6th grade. So I think that's a message that really can start to incorporate now.
Right.
Because I know I have 2 daughters, and they're really cognizant of this idea of trying to be healthy, eat healthy as much as you can, but at the same time, they're still like, hey, I want to go to Chick-fil-A sometimes, and like you say, how do you balance it, right? But I think that it's a powerful message that I think kids could really start to understand.
I love that.
Yeah,
try to figure it out.
I'm telling you, I've been saying it for a long time. I think it's genius, and the way you explain it, it's empowering. It makes me feel like, okay, I can nurture some things in my life.
Absolutely.
And we have some power, right? It's not a fate. This is my DNA, and I can't change it, and I'm stuck with it. But it gives you power, to make some choices.
I was born in this
this is
hell or something. Yeah, you can affect change.
Affect change.
But like when you watch TV, and I hear doctors do this all the time. I know what they mean. Yeah. But what comes out is they'll say, well, a lot of it is genetics. But what they don't realize is that they just told all those people in those families, yeah, you're predestined for diabetes because Uncle Joe got diabetes.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know what I mean? They don't explain that. Well, what we're really talking about is, am I going to still eat the fried chicken the same frequency that you guys ate it?
Yes.
And eat all the other stuff and not exercise. So if I do everything that you guys did in your lifestyle, I'm going to get it.
Yeah, because it's been proven that, I mean, the genetic component is, it's the smaller component of our health, right? Probably 10%, right? It's this lifestyle component that probably does the most. And there's some component we just don't understand at all, right? Again, bad things can happen to good people, right? But a lot of this is about the lifestyle portion of it. And that's kind of been proven with a lot of studies. And so the genetics, you can't really do much about that, right? But the other component of the lifestyle, we really can impact.
Absolutely.
And that's, I think, the message that everybody has
I do
to
too.
have.
That's amazing.
So thinking, if you don't want to use that, just, we're
Let
still
you know.
waiting.
You're still waiting for it.
We're
You're
still waiting for it.
No, I'm excited, though. Excited about what you all are doing.
Yeah.
Excited about this podcast and show.
Yes.
Again, you're really touching a lot of people. So
Yeah, it was.
Congratulations to you guys.
Thank you, yeah.
Great job.
Well, thank you. I'm glad
Listen.
Daniel wasn't here today. He would have messed it all up. Now I look forward to him meeting you because
He'll love it.
Yeah. So thanks again.
Yes. Thank
you
you so much.
It's great. Thanks.
And as we always say, to the rest of the world, stay healthy.
Woo, woo.